there's a place and time for it to a degree, but then you have to kinda the bell has to go off or someone has to ring the bell or life will ring the bell and say, "What about this when you're in a lot of agony? What about this when you're in deep grief about losing someone? What about your own demise?" So you can't disappear everything in the end. It's just you're gonna be, unembodied, right? But if you're too much here and everything impacts you to such a degree, then you're incomplete as well. You're you may feel like you're very much a human being, you're in touch with your emotions, let's say an evolved human being where you are, you know, psycholo- psychologically pretty astute, emotionally intelligent, all the good stuff, taking care of your body, in tune with it. That's like, but that then is being myopic too much on the form, right? It's nice, it's good. It's, but then that formlessness has to be integrated into that which is the spaciousness that everything lives in, relaxing into be unbounded so you're not so um formed. You want to be resting and relaxing into being more dissolved. Yeah. So then they come together, both I am and I am that. It goes like this: I am that, and that is that. So I am is when you realize your vast consciousness, you're the space itself. In meditation, you can realize that there's no separate somebody really here. There's no center to consciousness. It's empty. An empty center exists within you. It is true. I hope you have found out when you go in and you rest in being. It's like there's no contracted self there. It's just this being. I am starts to dawn. The dawning of I am. And then I am that comes in is that the divine you that you are divine, divine being. You're not the separate self is not true, but what is there is divinity. It's the God essence. It's the intelligence of life itself is what lives in the center of you. I am is the empty center, and I am that is more of the it's like unity. Unity starts to dawn. Unity, which is one with everything. I'm that. I'm that and that and that and that. And then that takes place because there's no more I am in there. Even though it doesn't feel like there's a self there that's realizing this, there still is. There still is a subject object enough to be able to reflect on itself to say, I am. Well, what knows that, right? And I am that is the divine center. It gets to be realized. You don't actually know that there still is a self there that is this thin veil of self that realizes that. But when it switches, then it's all perfect and good. But when it switches to that is that there's no more self there. Only that knows that there's that. And that includes everything. That is that. It doesn't leave anything out. So it's in harmony then with its emptiness and form nature. It's not at all confused. It's not in the transcendent or in the immanent in a imbalanced way. It's balanced, knows itself as that, that is that, and everything in existence is that. So anything that arises is never ever considered to be separate. So I am it that really does take place as you deepen into knowing that about being your the presence inside, okay? In order for that to be really grounded, the background has to move to the foreground of the being that is unconscious to itself has to be moved to the foreground and become self-aware. Self-aware meaning consciousness is aware of itself, and that takes attention so that you're paying attention to it, so it grows, and it takes relaxing, so it has a chance to grow and deepen and expand. So it's not limited. And then the I am that takes place as in a deeper way. It's not just awareness is aware of itself and being has woken up to the fact that it's always here. It then it like it it expands to include more and more of itself. It expands to include the screen, to include one another. It expands to include the buggies on the planet and everything in creation. And then that is a deepening that deepens like, oh, wow, it's not made up. It's not a mind game. It's a deep, deep, deep realization. This too, I used to say, this too is that. Wow. With this innocence and wonder, like a child. This too? Wow. Yep. This too. And when that's done completely all the way, then that is what comes forth. Because there's no more need of a kind of like a purposeful lens of consciousness in order to make something happen. Self-consciousness, is still being applied in a wonderful way during I am that. That's all like perfectly orchestrated. And then that is there's no longer an awakening that you can point to. There's no longer a sleepiness that you can point to. There's no more anything really taking place as a process. Evolution takes place and growth takes place because as long as anything's alive, it'll happen. But as a process, the process part is over. Process is the ability to to self reflect creates process.